Hi, my name is Shaivya and I just wanted to check in really quickly and talk to you about the difference between content writing in B2B and B2C. B2B is business to business and B2C is business to consumer. So, what is really the difference in writing between the two, right? So, these are just the basics. I want to get into the first step really when it comes to the difference between the two, which is establish your buyer persona. So, what is a buyer persona? Buyer persona is essentially the individual you're writing for who is coming to the website, the brochure, the article, the white paper that you're writing, right? Really understand the pulse of that individual. If it's a B2B brand, then the first thing you want to do is you want to dive into the industry and you want to get a real sense of the industry jargon. Because when you're speaking to a B2B individual, you want to speak like the expert industry that you are, right? So really get to know the brand you're writing for. Even if you're not an expert when you begin, you kind of have to become one, right? When it comes to B2C, the main aspect is to get to know the real consumer. Don't make assumptions when you're writing for someone, right? And understand that maybe your consumer is more than just the person the product is built for. For example, if I'm writing for a kid's product, right? If I'm writing for Bonvita, I know that the messaging is not just for the kid who's going to drink the Bonvita. It should be. But most Bonvita messaging is actually for the parent, right? Oh, your kid's going to be taller, stronger, whatever. I hope I'm not confusing it with Horlicks. But and I think they do the same, right? That there's a serious sense of who has the purchasing power, which is true for even B2B writing. Ask yourself who has the purchasing power in the brand in the business that you're communicating to. Is it the CXO? Is it the is it a manager at a certain level? And that's the person you should be talking directly to. And an interesting thing about B2B that overlaps with B2C is this empathy. Ultimately, both activities are an exercise in empathizing who you're writing for and then tackling those needs. So, need identification is really the first step. Everything I've talked about is really the first step in writing for either B2B or B2C messaging and pieces. But the most important difference between the two is the language. The way you talk to a consumer is just absolutely not the way you talk to a business. But the only way you can find out what the accurate tone of doing this is research. So you really have to become an expert on either identify your consumer, define your buyer persona. I mean, stick a stock image if you have to, really make it a Bible, and then write to that person as you cross mediums, whether it's an article, whether it's a web content piece, whatever. You really want to write to the person or people who are directly being targeted by the content or the messaging. So that's your step one. Figure out who you're writing for in the most deep, researched, analytical way possible.